Welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace. I am Saywuddafeel Andre, and today we are going to talk about the COVID vaccine. I want to know if you're taking it. I want to know if you're not taking it. I want to know if you're on the, you're on the fence with it. But we're going to talk about that today. But before I do anything, I got to introduce the legends on the right and the left of me. Okay, I have to address them. The first address that I give to them, I'm going to address them as doctors because that's what they are. But they my friends, so I can call them by their first name. So first, I want to introduce Dr. David Fagan. The brother is in the Richmond area, but he's from BK all day. Brother David, how you doing, brother?
Greetings, Brother Dre.
I
just want to tell everybody that I am not a medical doctor. We actually have one in the house. I'm here to bring a pseudo-academic flair to the conversation, and that is all. I informed the real doctor in the house that, yes, he will be fielding all the medical questions. Without further ado, take it away.
All right, so here we go. Look. Now, I'm going to introduce another brother, okay? This is the brother like no other. I grew up with this dude, and let me tell you, when we grew up together, he always was the smart one out of the group. I mean, he was building volcanoes. I mean, he had a nice go-kart. Remember that nice go-kart you had? Man, that was a nice go-kart.
Oh, man.
So this is Dr. Guy Francis. Dr. Guy Francis, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Andre? How you doing?
I'm all right. Go ahead.
I want to hear about this go-kart, but I guess that's another discussion for another day.
We're going to talk about that go-kart before we leave here. Go ahead, Guy. Tell me about yourself, man.
Yeah, listen, I'm from New Jersey. I grew up in Vauxhall, New Jersey. It's a small community, African-American community in Union Township. I like to say we were really blessed to have the community that we have, basically because everybody knew everybody. And it didn't matter where you were. If you did something, your parents would find out before you got home. That's how close the community was. And so, like I said, I met Andre and his brother going to church one Sunday, and he jumped out on me with a little knife or something.
I forgot about that.
And we chased him back into the house he lived in, and we went on to church. But ever since then, we all became friends, man. So,
can you have night fight and church in the same?
I'm the one with the knife and started running, but that's funny. But yeah, I want to welcome both of y'all, man. I am glad to have you here. All right. Yes, welcome. Before we get into the show, I want to say one thing, okay? I want to give a big shout out, and these numbers might have changed within the last 5 minutes, but I want to give a big shout out to everybody in Atlanta and Georgia, Savannah, everywhere. It's Fulton County, all of y'all. Look, Georgia,
Fort
thank
Valley
you.
State,
Yes.
Warren Robins area.
Thank you. Yes, we do. Thank you so much for bringing this home. I'm telling you. So big up to Senator Warnock and Asif. I'm glad we did it, man. So
and Stacey Abrams, you can't forget.
Absolutely. Give a round of applause.
Absolutely. The governorship, and then she came back, strong. HBCU in the house, Spelman woman.
Yeah.
Right.
Big up to all the Black African American colleges right there. So before we get started, I'm going to go. I want to take a look at these numbers. Okay, so the total cases is 87. This could have changed too. The total cases is 87,015,526. Total deaths 1 million, which is way too many. 878,581. Here in the United States, we have 21,252,296 cases, and we have 360,443 deaths, which is way too many. It's all of them are way too many, to be honest with you. So I wanted to show you that because it has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to do one more thing. So let me tell you this first. When I was a kid in school, we'd be in class, right? And the teacher would ask for an answer, ask a question, and you know, we have to raise our hand to answer it. It just so happens that the question it had like 5 different answers. You know, it was like 5 different answers. Like, what are the 5 things Jack had in his bowl? He had apples, oranges, whatever. So when the teacher asked the question, nobody would raise their hand. Nobody would say nothing. It would be like dead silence, like for 30 seconds, because nobody wanted to raise their hand. You know, okay, I ain't raising my hand. But then you get that one brave soul that don't give a darn if it's right, the answer's right, because that's what we was worried about, if we look stupid getting it wrong. You know, we have our hand up, yeah, it's this. And then she's like, no, it's not.
I think we know where this is going.
So, yeah, look. So when that first person raised his hand and got the answer right, I was like, okay, now I can raise my hand. Everybody else fell in. Okay, now we can raise our hand. I wanted somebody else to go first before I didn't want to look stupid. So with that said, okay, I want to talk about this coronavirus vaccine. And the first thing, let me just say this. When I saw it on TV, people getting their first, you know, the people doing the first vaccine, the first 5 people I seen within a matter of 2 days they were all African American. So with that said, and the thing that happened in school, you know, as I waited for somebody to give an answer, then I'll go. I think it was purposely and strategically planned to have like a lot of African Americans on TV doing that vaccine, because with the hopes of black people would fall in. Okay, so she's doing it, so I guess I can do it. So I just want to bring that up because, you know, I think that's important that you know, I don't want to, I'm not doing this show to tell you, we're not doing this show to tell you you shouldn't take it. We're not doing this show to tell you that you should take it. I'm basically doing this show to give you information so you have an informed decision. And it may seem like I have my own opinions about it, and it may slip out like a man on some oil. But I'm gonna tell you, this is not meant to it's not meant to persuade you in any way. It's just my opinion, David's opinion, and God's opinion. Okay, so I don't want anybody to, you know, think, you know, we're trying to persuade you into doing something. So with that said, there's one thing I want to go over before we get into it. And I know I said I want to go over one thing, and it's been 2 things already, but I want to go over the process of the vaccine, of creating a vaccine from start to finish. And it's like stages. So I'm going to be real quick with that, and then we can get into the show, okay? But this is part of the show, but we can get into it. So the beginning part of the stage, the stages of creating a vaccine, there's a development stage, okay? Not a development stage, it's just different stages. And the first stage that I want you to understand is, and I have it right here on my computer, so if I'm looking at it, I'm just reading some of it. I know I like to keep my eyes on the camera, but it's a lot of information, so it's here right on the screen. So the first stage of the process from vaccine to starting the vaccine to the end is the exploratory stage, okay? And that's the stage, the process of exploring and formulating the problem, which the problem is COVID, okay? And then a hypothesis is formed. Okay, the second stage is the preclinical stage, and that's a stage where it's a stage where the research begins before testing humans. During this stage, it's usually like data is collected and tests are performed more on animals, not humans, okay? So then you have the clinical development stage. Now, the clinical development stage, it comes in 3 phases, okay? And I remember hearing the 3 phases because when it came out, when the coronavirus first hit us, they were talking about the stages of getting a vaccine, talking about the vaccine and saying it was 3 different stages. And when I thought about that, I was like, okay, we're not going to have a vaccine for about a year and a half because they were explaining these stages. And I'm just like, that's a lot of testing and it takes long. But I'm surprised that we got a vaccine so quick, and I'm happy for it. Happy that they did. But here's the stages, the phases rather, of the clinical development stage. The first phase is small groups receive the vaccine, like a trial vaccine. All right. Phase 2, the clinical study expands and the vaccine is given to people of specific characteristics. Like for this, it might have been older people because older people seem to be getting affected. And then they got, characteristics like age, African Americans, Caucasians. So it's given to the specific characteristics of certain people that is affecting more, I'm thinking. That's my logic in it. Phase 3, the vaccine is given to thousands of people and is tested for efficiency and safety. And that's where those people start volunteering for, to be part of the testing. I got 3 more. Bear with me. The next stage is the regulatory and review stage. The next stage is the regulatory review and approval stage. At this stage, the vaccine passes. When it passes all 3 phases, the vaccine developer submits what they call a BLA, and that's a biologics license application. I don't know, Dr. Francis, have you ever heard of that guy?
No, I'm not too much involved in the research part.
Okay.
Of medicine.
All right. So after that, once that's created, basically it's a request for permission to introduce a biologic product into the interstate commerce, meaning it gets submitted to the FDA. All right. So
it's a regulatory measure.
Yeah. So after all of that, once it gets, after that, it's the manufacturing and the quality. It's the manufacturing and the quality control stages. Basically, it's the estimate at the time required after the vaccine has been approved for commercial manufacturing to begin. During this stage, national authorities and the World Health Organization, they constantly monitor the safety and severity of the adverse effects on those who have taken the vaccine. All right. Oh, so with all that said, that's one of the that's the process of, there's an approval process too, but I don't want, I don't, that's specific and I don't want to give you misinformation. So I can put a link to that in the actual group. So the Facebook group. But those are the stages. All right. So that's what they do to come up with a vaccine from beginning to the end until they get a vaccine. And currently we have 2 so far that I know of, 2 companies that have the vaccine. It's Pfizer and Moderna. Okay. Mm-hmm. So with that said, and you could keep it brief, Guy and David. How do you feel about the vaccine? I mean, do you think it's safe right now? In your opinion, do you think it's safe?
Let me dive in, and then the expert opinion could clean it up.
Oh wait, let me just say one more thing before you say that. Look, Dr. Francis is a doctor. That don't mean you're not gonna bully my friend. I'm telling you that now. I'm gonna tell you that now. You bully my friend, and it's gonna be a problem. So just because he's a doctor don't mean he know everything. We don't know everything. Okay, this is a whole nother. We on a whole nother level. Okay, so I'm telling y'all now. I'm gonna tell you. Don't mess with my boy. All right, go ahead, doctor. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so one of the things that a lot of African Americans have an adversity to by anything with the government dealing with medical, of course, goes back to the Tuskegee experiment, right? But even then, there's a lot of misinformation. Like if you talk to somebody out on the street, they think the Tuskegee experiment was the government actually injected the men with with syphilis. And that actually is not what happened. What actually happened was they took 40 guys or thereabouts who had syphilis already, and they told them that they were giving them a vaccine for the syphilis when actually it was a placebo. And the experiment, instead of trying to cure them, the experiment really was to see what does untreated syphilis look like in black men, right? So from there, that's where all the distrust comes. Now, as far as the vaccine for COVID, it's a SAR vaccine. So a lot of people think that January of 2020, that's when they started doing research on the vaccine. In actuality, it wasn't that. It's part of SARS. And everybody remembers SARS from way back when. This is just a variant. So for better or worse, yeah, I'm going to take it.
Okay. Okay. Dr.
Okay.
Francis.
Well, let me give you a little background on me. I'm a family physician. I have my office at Maplewood, New Jersey. I went to school at New Jersey Medical School, which is now part of Rutgers. And I did my residency initially first in surgery, and then I switched to family medicine. I spend most of my time taking care of infants all the way up to elderly patients, and I do some GYN. So I'm kind of well-rounded. Let me just talk about the disease first, if you don't mind, Andre.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure, absolutely.
When this disease came about, I would say most of the doctors did not know very much about it. And by the time it really struck.
Oh, technical difficulties.
Let's see if we can get him back on here. Just a second here.
He must be on an iPhone.
Oh, why you putting the iPhones out there, man? There you go. He's back. All right, we got him back in here. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Guy.
I'm sorry, Dre.
That's all right. It's all good.
Hold on a second, Guy. Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah, I do.
He just said that. All right, look, y'all gonna leave iPhones alone. Hey, if you, that's fine. Hey, I'll bring you back in if it happens again. We good.
Okay. That's all right, man. When this really struck in March in New Jersey, no one was wearing masks. No one was really taking any kind of precaution with PPEs. And so what happened for me, I ended up getting sick and at the end of March. And during that time, I had a few patients who came in the office who ended up being hospitalized, put on a vent, and eventually I actually got sick. So I brought it home to my wife. I gave it to my kids.
Wow.
And was sick for 2 weeks. And it's a sickness that, it's you just don't feel well. You have no energy. You don't have no appetite. You just don't want to be bothered by anybody. You just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. You can't sleep. I didn't have fever, didn't have body aches. I did have a little diarrhea, sore throat. No headache for me, but my wife had headache and all that. At the same time, my brother actually contracted around the time I got it, and I ended up losing my brother from COVID. My mother got it, and my uncle got it, and I lost them as well, all in April. I went to. I had to continue to work because my dad got it, but he survived. My oldest brother got it; he survived. I had to continue to work though, because I had to keep things moving because you just I had to take care of them. So it was tough during that time, and so we really didn't know what the disease, what the real true disease process was. And everybody had different symptoms, and there was no treatment. And even till today, there's nothing's been put out by the CDC that tells us as physicians how we treat this. It's the first time in history that all we've been telling patients is go home and quarantine, and that's not an answer. I had to do my own research, try to find out what I could give my patients. We started off with hydroxychloroquine, which it worked in some. And others it killed. It caused cardiac arrhythmias, so people would just drop dead. Even in the hospital, they would drop dead. We tried Zithromax, which has some anti-inflammatory properties. That was good for some. They had some other antibodies type of medications that you can give that didn't really do much. They were trying to give that to stop this cytokine they call cytokine storm. That didn't work as well. They did have a drug called remdesivir, and that was under investigation as well. It's a medication that was originally developed for Ebola,
Mm-hmm.
and they for some reason knew that this would have some effect on
Hmm.
COVID. I mean SARS/COVID too, and so they were actually given this out only in certain hospitals. You had to enter a study.
Okay.
Some hospitals got it under compassionate use, and but compassionate use means that you're not part of the study, but they'll give it to you. And in particular, I didn't see how much compassion they were doing because some people
Mm.
weren't even getting it. And
Wow.
so,
Wow.
to watch my mother get on a ventilator, and spend 2 weeks on a ventilator, and you're not treating the actual disease. You're thinking the vent is going to save you. You think the vent is the answer. The vent was never the answer. The answer to treating COVID is technically treating the virus. The
Right.
virus affects your lungs, it affects your kidneys, it affects your brain, it affects your heart. And people have even after they clear COVID out of their system, they have long lasting effects from this, and we still don't even know what to expect or how to treat it. Basically,
Right.
people are still complaining of headaches, chest pain, and all that. But what there was a study in Yale, and Yale said that the major problem with COVID is that it's damaging the endothelial lining of your blood vessels, meaning the cell that lines your blood vessels, and it's
Mm.
causing your platelets also to be dysfunctional. So you get a lot of clotting in that sense of your large vessels and your small vessels. And if you in the small vessels in particular, two organs is your lung, which allow you to exchange gas, oxygen in, carbon
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
dioxide out. If those small vessels are clotting, you have no gas exchange. You end up dying
Wow.
basically from
Wow.
hypoxemia. You end up dying from acidosis, and your organs starts to
Wow.
fail. Same thing with the kidneys. The kidneys are one of the first thing to go, and same thing. You need your small little vessels in the kidneys is doing your filtration, and if you're clotting the units that's filtering your blood, you end up not being able to filter, and so your toxins are just building up in your blood, and again you become acidotic, and you pass away from that. So that's somewhat of a background of COVID and how it has affected me and my life, and
Mm-hmm.
and how I've addressed it. With my patients, I don't send them home to quarantine for 2 weeks only. That's not the answer. The answer is
Right.
you got to give them something. And I did find one thing, but I'll tell you about that later. I found one
Okay.
thing that I've been trying to give to patients.
Okay. All right. I'm looking
Hey,
forward to
Jay, can
that.
I ask something real quick? And
Absolutely.
first and foremost, Guy, about your brother,
Yeah.
man. I mean, there's no words. Wish Drake would have told me that. Wow. But the question I want to ask you, so my son, like back in December of 2019, I mean, he was on his back, when
Hmm.
as far as with a sickness. And it reminded me when I had the flu way back when, but we took him to the doctor. They said it wasn't flu. And we suspect now that he was one of those bunch of people that had some type of pre COVID-19 variant.
Hmm.
Can you tell us anything more about that? That is it true? Because a lot of people were saying that in the fall and winter of 2019, a lot of people were experiencing these flu-like symptoms that didn't have the flu, and nobody really knew what happened. And of course, we didn't see COVID
Right.
until March.
Right. I can say that I've had a few patients that I tested them for the antibodies,
Hmm.
to see if they had it, because that's the real way you really determine whether someone had COVID or not. You check for antibodies, and some of them were positive, and
Hmm.
they said they were sick back in December. So
Wow.
um,
Wow.
you know, I mean, that's really the only way. Very early in this disease, they said that, they said a few things that just didn't make sense to me as a physician. I deal with, data, and I deal with facts and things that I've been taught through medical school. And some of the things they've been talking about just doesn't jive. It's just counterintuitive, and it's almost as if someone's lying. And it's a lot of misinformation to the people. If you come out and say, well, but when June rolled around, oh, we don't know, the antibodies are not lasting. People are losing their immunity after 3 months. I haven't seen that.
Right.
I've tested myself. I've tested other patients, even up to December, and they still have antibodies. And
Hmm.
so,
So, do you think that's part of some type of scheme that the drug companies to give the follow up for that second shot? Because
well,
initially they did ask, they said that the first shot they didn't know how long it was going to last, which is why it was almost like a booster was required to sustain the immunity. So you're thinking that's hogwash.
well, I think the major talk of it was that the um, to me it seemed like it was more of saying something before they had proof of it. and
Hmm.
and I think maybe all along that they, what some people say, it's not about really COVID, it's about this vaccine. And I'll
Hmm.
give you some other examples of what I'm trying to say is, first of all, let me just teach you about antibodies, if you don't mind, real quick. It's
Go ahead.
simple.
Yeah.
There's usually five major groups
School's in
of
session.
antibodies. Okay, there's five major groups of antibodies. There's the word game, if you can say that, game with a D.
Okay.
There's a G type, there's an M type, E, an A, and a D type. Um, if you look at the major ones that we look at is really the M type and the G type. Okay, when you get sick from an illness, you usually develop the M type first. Okay, there's a spike. It goes up and it comes down by, say, 16 weeks, 3 months to 4 months. Then you have a slowly rising G type that goes up and it stays elevated forever. So if you ever had like the MMR vaccine when you were young, if you test your blood today, your G type will still be positive. And
Hmm.
if I want to check to see if this was a new or old infection, I will look for the M type. If you don't see an M type, spike can come down. If you don't see an M type in your blood, that means it's an old infection. If you see a G type, that means either you had a vaccine or you had the illness at some point in your childhood. And so for me, when I went to check, for antibodies, when that test was available by LabCorp, they told us to just do the G type, not do the M type. Don't even do the A type. Just do the G type, because that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for immunity, and so that's what I've been doing for patients that may have had it, or just patients that want to know if they have immunity. Um, that's pretty much how it all works. Now, going back to, we were talking about, schemes to, or just hogwash, for them to take the
Hmm.
vaccine twice. No, I think the vaccines that they're putting out, I think in particular Pfizer, I believe it's the second doses to give you a booster. So some vaccines like hepatitis B, the human papilloma virus, HPV virus, we say, they're like multiple viruses. I mean, multiple vaccines. So you give one now, and then you give one either a month or 2 months later, depending on which type of vaccine, and then you'll give a third
Hmm.
booster 6 months later. That's just how to boost your immune system. That's the way the vaccines work. I don't think by them coming out with a booster a month later is anything other than trying to boost your immunity.
Okay.
Now, going back to the vaccine is, um, the COVID vaccine. It's a new type of vaccine. It's a vaccine that uses something that's called mRNA. Okay, messenger RNA. RNA is basically, in its simplest form, is when your cells are reproducing, or when your cells are making protein. It transcribes. I mean, it takes a piece of the DNA in your nucleus, and it transcribes that section of DNA, and then that that strand of DNA, that the strand of RNA that's made, joins up with another part in your cell, something called a ribosome, and then it
Mhm.
transcribes that, we call it messenger RNA, into a protein. And that protein could be anything that the cell makes, so to speak. It could be a hormone. It could be part of something a protein that's going to stay inside the cell. It could be an enzyme. It could be anything. And that's how it all works. This is the first time in history that they have a mRNA vaccine.
Mm.
First time.
Wow.
So it's a relatively a new type of vaccine. You know.
All right, got a quick question, Dre, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Sure.
All right, so what you were going to talk about, some of the things that you're given, it's not vitamin D, is it? Because that's what I wanted to ask you about. Because so I won't say in the alternative universe. I'll just say that
Right.
in the homeopathic side of things,
Right.
they're saying that one of the reasons why African Americans are experiencing the higher rates of infection and death is because our melanin, which has a lot of positive properties, actually blocks some of the vitamin D from the sun. And being that Americans in general, we don't get enough vitamin D and we're deficient as is because we spend a lot of our time inside. It's even worse for African Americans. So this vitamin D boosts our immune system. And since, our melanin is blocking it, we're like 10 times lower levels than other folks. So one of the things that we should be doing is, the vitamin D, like the gummy vitamins or supplements. So,
Right.
any truth to that, or
Well,
this
you know
is
what? I don't have any particular proof. I haven't seen the data on it really, to be honest. I
mhm,
just know that they do say zinc, vitamin D, um, vitamin C, and there's some other supplements that they say has some beneficial effects. But I can tell you this about vitamin D: of all the patients that I've checked their vitamin D level, and I have whites and black patients and Latino patients. Of all the ones that I've checked, everybody is vitamin D deficient. So that led me to say, well, you know what? Either the reference range of what they consider normal is off. Okay, I mean everybody. Some are in the sixes, some are in the 22s. Normal vitamin D level is 30 and above. And so I don't think I found one person out of 100 patients that had a normal vitamin D level. Just one
mhm.
that was above 30. Everybody that I've tested, white, black, Hispanic, have been less than what they consider normal. So I don't really know the real true value of what vitamin D, where it should be, and what and whether or not it's actually building some kind of protection against COVID. Now, don't
Right.
get me
Right.
wrong. I do believe in supplements for you to take it. I would tell you, you know what, take it, because you know it can't harm you. It
Well, yeah,
can't.
I
But
agree. Yeah, I have a family member. I have a family member who actually beat autism or is a recovering autistic, and
mhm,
one of the things that was given to him at a younger age was vitamin D,
vitamin D,
and
mhm,
that's when we started to see,
a
a
difference.
market change of improvement.
Right,
And he
Mm.
started
right,
developing it after two when he got the MMR. But I suspect
right.
that's another discussion for another podcast.
Right. But
Yes.
listen, vitamin D by itself, I'm sorry, Dre. The
That's
vitamin,
good. That's cool.
listen, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. Okay,
Mhm.
and I can tell you, it's the word is CADE, KADNE, all fat soluble, meaning that you store it.
Mhm.
KADE. Those are the fat soluble. You can take too much of those too, so you got to be careful. You can have vitaminosis, taking too much of those. Um, but then the water soluble vitamins are the ones that you excrete every day. That's the B complex, all the B's, and vitamin C.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So I've asked a couple of people if they were taking that vaccine, right? And I got different answers. I myself, like I was on the fence because I remember that one day I called you and I was convinced I'm not taking it. Prior
Right.
to that, I'm just like I don't know. Part of me at first was like the fear of you better take this vaccine or it's a chance that you can, you can die from this stuff or get real sick. But I go back and forth with it. I go back and forth. I think everybody should consider their health, their own personal health, the stuff that they suffer from. Is it beneficial for you to take it? Because, it's a risk either way. But, I think I read an article. I asked somebody, I forgot who it was. I asked somebody about if they would take the virus. And they said they would, they don't, it's not a problem for them. Chris Rock, right here, Chris Rock says, and I'm going to read this. I'm going to enlarge it because I want to make sure I can see it. My eyes is going. At 48, I can't see. Chris Rock, he said, excited to get the flu vaccine. And then he said, I guess somebody told him, you don't know what's in it. He's like, do I know what's in Tylenol? I just know my headache is gone. So with that said, my response to that, because somebody actually said that, showed me this article and said something like in reference to this. My response to that is that he's saying, yeah, I don't know what's in Tylenol either, but I take it, and you all take it too. Y'all take Tylenol. But my argument is Tylenol's been around since like bare aspirin, so we know everything. And yes. There's side effects to Tylenol. There's side effects to Tylenol. There's side effects to a lot of stuff. But we know those side effects. Over the years, like Tylenol, we pretty much, I can say it's fair to say that we know the side effects of Tylenol. And because we know those side effects, we can make an informed decision about if we're going to take it or not. I fully know what the risks are. This COVID vaccine, and this is where I'm saying, this is just what I'm thinking. I'm not trying to persuade anybody to take it or not, but I don't know the long-term vaccines. I mean, the long-term effects of it. So I'm a little skeptical about it because I don't know. And it's not that I'm thinking, somebody plotting to kill me or something, because I've heard that too. But it hasn't been out long enough for me to know. Well, and some of the side effects, you got your tiredness. What I got here, you got your tiredness, difficulty breathing, swelling I got some here that says swelling in the face, fast heartbeat. This says bad rash over your body. I got this straight from the CDC website too. Dizziness and weakness. That's the for the Pfizer, and the Moderna is pretty much pain, swelling, redness, and there's a couple more that's kind of the same as the other one. But I just think it's crazy. Like people are saying, well, you take Tylenol. Tylenol's been around for a while. I know what I'm getting with that, But COVID, it's just like, no, I don't know what's in it. I don't know. Right. And then I remember I called you before and I read this. It was a report study for Pfizer, page 132. And it said, I got it right here as a matter of fact. Okay. So with this here, it says the male participant reproductive inclusion criteria. This information here is like basically, it's basically saying, don't have, it can mess with your reproductive system. It's telling you to refrain from, let's see here, eligible to participate. They agree that the following requirements during the intervention period and for at least 28 days after that dose of the study intervention, which corresponds to the time. Sorry, this is the way I read. I'm sorry, y'all. No but problem. It just says, it says you got to refrain from donation of your sperm, abstinence from intercourse, and this right here is just like a lot. I'm sure the people who took that study, they went over that. They were very informed about what that particular effect. But I didn't know that until somebody brought it to my attention. And I don't think a lot of people know that. But this study, it's like 146 pages. And if you don't read it all, you're going to miss something. But right. And even with women, it's like almost the same thing. So it's just like, and y'all can read this here. Everybody who's looking, you can read this here. You got to be careful of some of the stuff you take in. It's just like, nobody knows that. So I'm a little skeptical about that,
Well, Andre, there was a study out of the University of Miami this past, I want to say November. University of Miami was saying that COVID-19, the disease itself, not even the vaccine, but the disease itself affects the male testes. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
I've heard that.
I, yeah, so can you maybe say maybe the vaccine also targets the male testicles as well? Like, is there an infertility issue that that's going to be produced by using this vaccine? It's possible, and I'm leery of that as well. It's interesting. One thing, that it's two things I'm going to say real quick. One was about, Andre, I'm gonna go back to what you were saying about, they want, us to take this vaccine because, they put us on the news and show us to be like one of the first people to take the vaccine. And
Hmm.
so, Fauci had said, that African Americans should respect or trust, should I say, the process, because one of the scientists, I believe, for Pfizer was a who helped develop this vaccine was an African American woman.
Hmm.
And to me, I wish I had a Twitter account because I don't use Twitter. I would have said that is such, that is the most ridiculous racist thing I ever heard,
It's
because
race baiting.
of yeah, yeah, and they want us to, and I think also that they've been saying that we are dying, they have to say disproportionate compared to whites, more than whites. And in reality, white folks are dying more than African Americans, but we are dying in terms of population, United States population. We are
Hmm.
dying more in terms of
Yeah,
that. So
the
they're
higher rate.
using those
Yeah.
things. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is just to try, you heard Cuomo, he talks about, Governor Cuomo out of New York talks about, he want to make sure that it's equitable in our communities, and he's not taking until until it's available for all of us. I those things, puts up red flags for me. They want to make sure that we are eager to get this vaccine.
Hmm.
And what really capped it off for me, what really put off the top for me, was the CDC. Something that, you as a physician, you try to respect, and trust what they say, but they even were recommending that even if you had the disease, that you should still take the vaccine. And that doesn't make any kind of sense.
Right.
Not
Because you
one.
would have the
If
antibodies, right?
Right, I would have the antibodies. Right. If I had caught hepatitis B, would I sit and take 3 shots of hepatitis B? No. If I had MMR, measles, mumps, rubella
Mumps for
at
Bell.
some point in
Yeah.
time, would I really take the MMR again? No, you don't have to. And no doctor would have in the past 50 years would have said, well, not 50, but say 40 years would have said, yes, give them to them. You know, they had the disease, they need the vaccine. It doesn't
Hmm.
make any sense. And it
But
seems to
what
me
about the
that they're,
mutated variants? I mean, is that the rationale for telling somebody to
well,
take it if even if they've had it?
well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this is supposedly mutated virus, and out of the UK, that's supposedly in 3 states here in the United States. If that is accurate, right, that means that all this hard work that they've been doing is for nothing. Because if you have a quote unquote mutation, of the virus, then the vaccine would not be helpful, because that's the whole reason why we get a flu shot every year. Supposedly the flu virus mutates, new strains are coming, and then you need a new vaccine every year.
Hmm.
It shoots that theory down. That means that we've been taking the flu shot for nothing. If you have
Yeah.
protection, if this vaccine, COVID vaccine, whether it's Moderna, whether it's Pfizer, whether it's AstraZeneca that's coming out with one, or Janssen, which is part of J&J, Johnson Johnson, if
Mhm.
if if these vaccines will cover even this mutated strain, then what we've been doing for the last 20 years of taking this flu vaccine rather, it was for nothing, because your previous vaccines would have, even if it mutated, your previous flu vaccine should have protected you from the flu.
Right.
So I would like to see how they spin that one. Really, I really would.
Yeah, and I read an article. I seen it on CNN too. there was a Texas congresswoman who tested positive for COVID-19, and she had got the vaccine in this, like when it first came out, and she tested positive again for COVID. So, and that was that. And I thought about, in terms of the first dose, they say it takes about 2 weeks for the to get some type of protection, but the second dose, a couple weeks after that, then you're fully protected. So I thought that was kind of strange that she got it.
Well, there's that, but then don't forget that the other cases of someone who got it, got over it, beat it, quote unquote, and then got it again at a later date. Right. So you're like, wait a minute, either they had it and they got over it, and unless they got something different, and we saw that in the summer. So perhaps maybe that was the onset of the second or some type of different variant, to where it was resistant to the antibodies formed the first time around.
Yeah, and I think people should know that that flu vaccine, there's a little bit of the virus within the and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a little bit of the virus within the flu shot. In terms of the COVID vaccine, there's no COVID vaccine. None of the virus is in the shot. So I just want to make that clear, because a lot of people think some of the COVID virus is within the vaccine, and it's not.
But how is that possible? I thought the vaccine all vaccines were actually the dead virus in your body, then forms antibodies in response to the dead virus that's in your body now.
No,
that's not how it works.
Sometimes, well, you can have what we call heat kill vaccines, where they destroy it to a point, but where it won't affect you. But when you get it, your body will recognize the components of it. So then they have engineered, ones that are manufactured, so that you have that as well. They're engineered vaccines. Yeah. But I want to say another thing. There was an article in the New York Times just this past December. It was talking about Australia's COVID vaccine. They had to scrap that vaccine because the people who volunteered for it was coming back with, they say, false positive HIV.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
So for me, you have to question, whether it's false positive, meaning that you don't really have the virus, but you made antibodies against the HIV, the virus itself. You would probably really have to do like a viral load to really check to see if I would recommend those people do a viral load to check to see if they have the HIV virus in them. But aside from that, no vaccine should make you positive for an HIV test. That shouldn't be,
Right.
So they scrapped it.
Unless there's something else going on.
Well, I have no proof, but they say this virus. If you talk to other doctors, they don't think this is a naturally occurring virus as it is. If you even talk to some people don't believe it. But I have no proof. But can this virus be a combination of different viruses put together? And I don't know, and that's a possibility. And that's my theory. I had a theory like, why don't children get sick? Why don't they die from it? Well, if this virus is not a naturally occurring virus, and this virus itself is something kind of a hybrid or made to engineered virus, say biological warfare, whatever. I think children probably didn't get sick because they've been exposed to this type of coronavirus that may have been used, whether you say if it's a mixed virus which was created, maybe the children during their years in daycare and school, they probably ever seen this kind of virus before. And so what happens is corona comes out, this virus comes out, and their body reacts to it much faster. So if you hear like if you talk to some of these children that not just the parents of the children that was exposed or had COVID, they have a fever for about a day or two, and they get better right away. For my sons, all they had was a loss of smell and a little bit of diarrhea. They had nothing else. And so I probably would say that probably many of the children are already seen this virus and already mounted immune response much faster than people like myself who are older. Maybe there are some adults that was maybe caught a cold from their child from this particular virus as well, and maybe those are the ones that are asymptomatic. But I'm saying for the most part, there's got to be, they haven't been able to explain why children are not as sick or dying from this virus.
And that's a population that you think would have a more compromised immune system than the fully developed adults.
I got, I don't know how long Facebook Live keeps you on here, but we have 53 minutes. I think it's an hour, but it might go past it. But I want to go to one of these comments here. Let me go to this one first, because I think this one is funny real quick, but we'll get back to the this other comment because I want you to see it. Just give me a second here.
Of course, somebody says it's biowarfare.
Yeah, so let me bring that up here. So that's somebody said here it's biowarfare, and that's Eric. It's Eric. Eric said it's biowarfare. He wants to join in the conversation, but Eric, we're going to be wrapping it up soon. But Eric says it's biowarfare. Everybody's got their opinion, and I'm not gonna say it's not. I'm not gonna say it's not.
Ones that said there's nothing new under the sun. So let's start with that.
Well, this is too much speculation. Get to the root. What do you mean by that? Facebook user, what do you mean by that? If you can, but wow, he just said. And somebody else left a comment here. I don't know if they were talking about the COVID or they was.
Somebody said they have facts.
I'm gonna bring that in. Let's see what we got here. All right, so let's go. Okay, what are the facts, Eric? What are the facts?
I see a cut and paste about to happen, so prepare yourselves, everyone.
You gotta be quick with it. You gotta be quicker than that, Eric.
Here we go.
As soon as it comes up, I'll bring it right up. So that you go ahead and bring it on through. Okay, it says here.
Okay.
Too much to type. Okay, well I have to get you on here then, man. But I want to wrap this up, man. So we got a little bit of time left. We got 5 minutes, man. I know we was gonna talk about what's going on today, man. Let's get a quick. What's your thought about what's going on today, man?
All I know, Dre, if we would have tried that, me, you, and Dr. Francis here, we'd be 6 feet under right now.
Yes, we would. They'd be planning our funeral.
Right.
They would.
Right,
that's crazy, man.
Right,
but you know what?
Right.
Change is coming, man. I don't know if it's going to be all good, but change is coming, and they still going to do the certification process. They're doing. I'm looking on the TV. They're going to be doing it tonight. They're going to try to finish tonight. So the only thing that this guy's nuts, man. He's nuts, and I hope the country gets better once he's out of there because he's just crazy, man. I don't want to give him too much.
Hold on a second, Facebook user. I was just playing, brother. No offense, I wasn't trying to clown. Everybody got their information.
Okay, so he said, "Yeah, sir, don't."
We get you on so you can bring it. All valid points entertained.
All right. So I'm gonna wrap this up, man. I want to thank y'all for being on here. I really appreciate it, man. I enjoyed it. It was very informative, and we got to do this again, man. Definitely got to do this again, man. So, Dr. Francis, thank you. Dr. Fagan, thank you. I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in. Next week, we're gonna do next. I'm supposed to do a show every Wednesday. But I got an appointment, so the show might be a little later than a little later at a later time or before the time. But I will keep you informed, and I'll post it on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I stream to YouTube, Facebook, and the Speak Now, Speak Your Piece Facebook group. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate, and y'all can stay on the line. Stay on.
Hold on a second. Dre, don't you want to make an announcement about January 9th coming up soon?
Oh, yeah. Let me let y'all know. January 9th is Founders Day for Phi Beta Sigma, okay? I don't want you to go to work. I don't want you to do nothing. I want you to call me and say, Happy Founders Day. And you can send money if you want. You can send money. I'm fine with that, too. Blue and Phi.
You? No.
Thank you. All right, we out of here, y'all. We'll see
Okay.
y'all later, all right? Thank you for
All right.
tuning in.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
guys.
you.
It's been